Abhiramhirma Edhi Rudrayate Dakshinamukam Tenamam Pahinityam Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from the ever-changing to the unchanging. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through, and guide us evermore with thy loving presence. Peace, peace, peace. Our topic today is Swami Brahmananda and his lay disciples. The true history of a mystic's life is wrapped in mystery. He or she lives and moves in a plane which is different from ours. Their struggles, aspirations, fears, joys, experiences, and achievements belong to a realm which is beyond the understanding of ordinary people. It is a life of an inward march and has little to do with gigantic undertakings, daring enterprises, glorious performances in the external world. A mystic rests himself away from all attractions to the world, dives deep within, removes all the dirt and dross from the conscious and subconscious mind with superhuman courage and effort and industry to explore what treasures lie buried in the inmost recesses of the heart. The mystic usually leads a secluded life, which hardly comes into the public gaze. Even if living in society, he rarely asserts himself. He denies all claim to distinction or superiority. So complete is that self-effacement that the mystic hardly thinks it worthwhile to record the incidents of his or her life or to tell them to others. Even if those experiences are told, we cannot always understand them. What manifests itself in their extraordinary purity, wisdom, power, love, blissfulness, and humility is only a fringe of the real life, which for the most part is unseen and not readily comprehensible. Even those mystics who take active effort for the good of others usually bring into play the inner forces of their spiritual being to work upon others so as to influence their lives as a whole. This subtle influence of the mystic acts so smoothly and silently that most people can hardly be aware of its existence at the time. They can afterwards guess of the nature and value of what we call holy company from its far-reaching effects through time. Of this type of mystic, only those whose conduct is marked by outward deeds and attainments in the practical life become prominent and known to the public. The rest, though great, are likely to pass as little known. Sri Ramakrishna, like all great spiritual teachers, had his chosen ones, and the greatest of that group was Swami Vivekananda, who carried his message from one end of the globe to the other. establishing a new system of religious thought and life. But what he left in an infant stage was reared into full form under the fostering care of his brother disciple, Swami Brahmananda, whose transcendental spiritual characteristics had marked him as the spiritual son of Sri Ramakrishna. The institutions created by Vivekananda were consolidated and developed by Swami Brahmananda. Vivekananda laid the foundation, Swami Brahmananda built the edifice. Swami Vivekananda, with his dynamic, aggressive personality, fought against materialism, agnosticism, and atheism, and made religion acceptable to the highly educated East and West. Swami Brahmananda, on the other hand, with his characteristic quietness, set about to mold the lives of those who, in response to Swami Vivekananda's call, gathered around the name and ideals of Sri Ramakrishna. Swami Brahmananda's gentle personality, shining beside the flaming figure of Swami Vivekananda, may lose its conspicuousness, but not its greatness and glory. I was quoting just now from the first English language biographical sketch of Swami Brahmananda, written in 1930. We're observing the 163rd anniversary of Swami Brahmananda's birth, which occurred this last Tuesday. And the topic is Swami Brahmananda and his lay devotees. And aside from the talk celebrating that anniversary, we're also celebrating Swami Brahmananda's birthday with an ongoing snowstorm of 12 plus inches. So other than the camera operator and those in residence, this is pretty much an online talk. So welcome all of you virtually. Now, lay devotees in the title doesn't mean only those who received spiritual initiation from Swami Brahmananda, called Diksha in Sanskrit. Swami Brahmananda was actually pretty stingy with giving out Diksha, spiritual initiation. And there was a much, much wider circle of admirers and friends who benefited from Swami Brahmananda's holy company. We'll start with a general description of Swami Brahmananda's interaction with devotees, and then go to specific instances. Swami Brahmananda within our tradition is also referred to as Maharaj, and this comes from Sri Ramakrishna's assessment when he was a student and being trained by Sri Ramakrishna. He remarked that Rakal, that was his pre-monastic name, has the keen intelligence of a monarch. He could rule a kingdom if he wished. And Swami Brahmananda took this up and said, we'll call Rakal Raja. And in the order he's known both as Raja Maharaj and just Maharaj. And often in these reminiscences referred to as Maharaj. So the first reminiscence by Swami Vijayananda is from his formative stage. He was a novice at Bellarmine probably in 1918 or 1919, and just coming into that transition between being an ordinary person with an ordinary outlook and becoming a monk with a very different outlook, being trained by Swami Brahmananda, who eventually became his guru. And he was a chemist by training and had kind of a skeptical attitude towards matters of faith in general. And Swami Brahmananda, noticing this, gave him a Western nickname, which he used in private. So this takes place in Bellarmine. During the afternoon, people would come from outside the monastery, from all social strata, farmers, scientists, doctors, lawyers, writers, novelists, artists, university students, employees, servants. Literally, all kinds of people without distinction would gather around Swami Brahmananda. And the conversation between the Swami and the people was conducted in a climate of great joy. The subjects varied according to the life, occupation, and vocation of the speakers. For example, one day the Swami asked the great scientist, Jagdish Chandra Bose, and this is not hyperbole. Swami Jagdish Chandra Bose was a great scientist, and he did pioneering work in electronics with radio waves and microwaves and developing instruments to detect them and transmit them. And Marconi, he could have gotten the Nobel Prize that Marconi got just as easily. He didn't. And he was 50 or 60 years ahead of his time in plant physiology. He laid the groundwork of now what's called plant neurobiology. So Jagdish Chandra Ghosh, to Jagdish Chandra, and he understood that plants had nervous systems of a sort and proved that in his laboratory. So the Swami asked the great scientist Jagdish Chandra Bose, "Sir, how long will you continue to observe the different manifestations of life in the plant kingdom? Don't you see minerals are waiting for you? They want you to show the world that they also are invigorated by the same divine life. Everything is a manifestation of that living divinity." The professor was very pleased with this recognition of his work and humbly said, "If you bless me, someday I shall be able to do it." To a famous dancer, he said, "What a wonderful dance you showed me, interpreting the young Sri Krishna. But if you allow me, I would suggest something. While dancing, as well as in any other of his acts, Sri Krishna never forgot that he was God incarnate. So when you represent Krishna through dance, don't forget this." Now you notice this is a suggestion gently offered. This is like the dew. It's not coming from above, if you don't mind. The dancer answered, "Maharaj, that's impossible. How will I be able to raise myself to that divine height?" "My son, do this. Before beginning your dance, meditate for a while on Sri Krishna, and you will see Sri Krishna himself will take possession of your body, and your dance will be different because of that." And the talk would go on. Maharaj told one lady, "Mother of so-and-so, what a delicious dish you prepared last week. But, if you don't mind, if you add this spice," and he mentioned it, "and then offer it to the deity in the shrine of your home, you will see how much happiness will come into your heart. You've always cooked for your family. From now on, cook for God. And your sons, eating that sanctified food, will also feel uplifted." From my place on the big veranda, I would observe these extraordinary meetings and would notice everyone felt joy. When the meetings were finished and people were going downstairs, they would say, "Maharaj loves me more than anybody." And I would think, these people are crazy. Since Maharaj is a human being, he must have more love for some than others. How can it be that everyone is his favorite? Besides, I would think with my immature attitude and my novice approach to spirituality, What kind of meeting is this? There was no advice on prayer or detachment, no instructions on meditation. Maharaj didn't tell anyone that he should practice austerity or do any spiritual practice whatsoever. And here all say, he's an ocean of spirituality. I don't understand anything. But at the same time, my love for Maharaj was always increasing. I could feel how his love would lift me up and make me forget all about my previous life. One day, at 2 p.m, I was called to his room, called on the carpet. And there, for the first time, I learned about one aspect of true spirituality. Maharaj had already given me a nickname, which he would call me when we were alone. It was a Western nickname. Smiling, he said, "My son, I also observe you when you're observing me." Do you know something? People don't know what true spirituality is. In this world, most don't know what pure love is. They don't know how to love, but nevertheless, all expect to be loved by others. They come to see me, expecting me to solve their problems. I tell them they should tell their problems to God, and He will remove their pain. Everyone suffers, but each person has something good inside them. Maybe they don't know what their good qualities are. I encourage them to develop this good aspect that they have inside, and so doing, they come to have faith in themselves. They come to have Shraddha. They feel my love, and their hearts melt, and so they continue to love me and get ready for spiritual life by nourishing that faith in themselves and their love for me. Later, when by God's mercy, a desire for purification and permanent happiness wells up within them, I will tell them, do this. And then, in a clean, cultivated soil, in other words, the mind's been prepared, the seed of spirituality will germinate. But if from the very beginning I would have started giving them spiritual advice, in general, they would say, "What's new in this? All that Swami Brahmananda is telling us, we already know. We have read it in the books." Don't neglect the human dimension. So the topic is lay devotees, but most of the narration is given by monastic devotees, and usually monastic disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. So this one is from Swami Nirvanananda, who was Swami Brahmananda's personal attendant during the last years of his life, and later vice president of our order. Devendranath Bose, nicknamed Devan Babu. Babu means, it's an honorific, it means Mr., someone who was worthy of some respect for some reason or another. Devendra Babu, called Devan Babu, was a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna and friendly with all the direct disciples, particularly with Swami Akhandananda. After the master had passed, Devan Babu became the estate manager of the Maharaj of Kashim Bazar, and for many years did not come to see the monks. One day, by chance, Swami Akhandananda saw Devan Babu and brought him to Bellar Mat. Maharaj was at the monastery, and on seeing him after such a long time, he was particularly gracious to him. Afterwards, Maharaj said to Swami Akhandananda, "Well, Gangadhar, what has happened to your Devan? He's changed very much in movements, in manners, everything. His face now has a worldly expression, and he dresses like a dandy. Has he forgotten the master completely?" The next time Swami Akhandananda saw Devan Babu, he told him in the course of conversation exactly what Maharaj had said. "I don't know what has happened to me," he said. "I am not happy." A few days after that, Devendranath came to see Maharaj at the Mat. I was sitting in front of Maharaj's room. Devan Babu asked me, "Where is Maharaj?" I said, "Please take a seat. Maharaj is now in his room. I'll let him know you're here." Devan's great restlessness was clearly visible. He was not able to sit still. He was so anxious to see Maharaj that he couldn't wait for him to come out. He just rushed inside. Seeing Devan Babu, Maharaj silently went to him, placed his hand on Devan's chest, and stroked his chest several times. "What has happened, Devan Babu? What has happened? Everything will be all right. Think of the master." There was immediately a great change in Devan. He bowed before he made pranams to Maharaj and said, "Maharaj, all my worldliness is wiped away. How far I fell, but by your grace and blessings, I've been lifted up. Now I have no more sorrows or troubles." From that day, Devan Babu used to come quite often to see Maharaj. The experience he had on that occasion left a lasting effect. Long after the passing away of Maharaj, I asked Devan Babu to write an introduction to the original Bengali edition of the spiritual teachings of Swami Brahmananda. And the following portion is quoted. "Those who came in close contact with the spiritual son of Sri Ramakrishna say that Maharaj was endowed with immeasurable spiritual splendor, and that his spiritual energy flowed like torrents of rain in 100 directions. But no one knew how so much power, so much uplifting energy could remain so quietly in his mortal frame. The latent power of an electric wire is known only by touching it. We hear that the body of a realized soul is not made of matter but spirit. But that truth could not be understood, even when coming in touch with this divine man. With what heavenly love he kept us deluded." Swami Nirvanananda continues, "Devan Babu said to me, 'Do you remember that occasion when I went to see Maharaj? When he touched my chest with his hand, I felt a sudden shock. Immediately, I remembered my past, my love for God, my yearning for realization, and that filled me. And all the memories of Sri Ramakrishna came alive again in my mind. As a result, the course of my life was altogether changed." We really can't know how someone like Swami Brahmananda touched and affected people. This is just the tip of the iceberg. These are the things that are written down. The next reminiscence is also from Swami Nirvanananda. So he had a ringside seat during the last years of Swami Brahmananda's life, and he was a good recorder of events. It was the year 1918. Maharaj was then staying in Calcutta at the home of Balaram Bose in Bagbazar. I was with him, being his attendant. On this particular day, Maharaj had finished his lunch, and generally, he took a rest after his lunch. I was seated on a bench outside his room when a young girl and her brother arrived. The girl asked permission to see the Maharaj. I told her that it wouldn't be convenient, since he was now about to take his rest. Hearing this, the girl became very sad, visibly sad. So I went to Maharaj and told him about her. He said with affection, "Well, you see, in my old age, I can't talk very much after taking food. Please ask her to come in a couple of hours." When I told this to the girl, she began to cry. She mentioned Swami Saradananda had told her to go to Maharaj. She said, "Look, I shall only make pranams and then go. Please do arrange it." Moved by her sincerity, I again went to Maharaj. Sarat Maharaj has sent the girl. She only wants to make pranams and go. When he heard Swami Saradananda's name, Maharaj made no objection. The girl joyfully went to see Maharaj and bowed down. I stayed on the veranda while Maharaj talked with her. Later I learned that while bowing down, the girl began to sob, overwhelmed with emotion. Maharaj suddenly went into an ecstatic state and became silent and motionless. After a while, he looked at the girl and said, "My child, get up. Tell me what has happened." But the girl was still weeping. She stood up, but she was still not able to speak. Then, pointing to a picture of Sri Ramakrishna which was in the room, she said, "He asked me to come to you." Again, Maharaj said, "Tell me, my child, what has happened?" She told her story. She was married at the age of 14. Only 2 weeks after that, her husband died. And in India, in those days, this was a disastrous situation because a Hindu widow could not remarry nor work to support herself and had to depend mostly on her parents or near relatives to care for her. Her future looked very dark, and despairing, she wept bitterly and incessantly prayed, "O Lord, what will become of me? I am so lonely and helpless. What shall I do? Please, show me the way." After a year or so, one night Sri Ramakrishna appeared to her in a dream and said, "Don't cry. My son Rakal is living in Bagbazar. Go to him. He'll help you." She'd never heard of Ramakrishna or Rakal, and she wondered how she could get to Bagbazar, which was far away in another part of Calcutta. She didn't mention this dream to anyone in her father-in-law's household where she was staying. And as soon as she could, she went to her own house to talk to her mother. She told her mom everything, and her mother did know about Sri Ramakrishna. Hearing about him, the girl and her brother went to Bagh Bazar to find Sri Ramakrishna's son, asking if there were any sadhus nearby. She was told that there were sadhus in the Udbodhan house, and she went there. Swami Saradananda was there. She talked to him, told her everything, and he told her where to find Swami Brahmananda. The girl was with Swami Brahmananda for more than 2 hours. Finally, he called. As I entered the room, I noticed that she had received initiation. Maharaj asked me to get some sanctified food and some lunch for her and her brother. And after this meeting, the girl came often to see Maharaj. And I saw her once or twice in the monastery after Maharaj passed away. Now, this is unusual. Swami Brahmananda, it was not uncommon for him to make people wait 7 or 8 or 9 years to receive spiritual initiation. And this was immediate, no delay. So there was a quite a range on how he handled this thing. Swami Nirvanananda continues. In 1942, a nun in ochre-colored robes came to see me at Bellarmont. She was accompanied by a young girl disciple. I didn't recognize the nun, but when she reminded me of her of her visit with Swami Brahmananda at Balaram Mandir 24 years earlier, I at once remembered. And I asked where she had been all those years. She answered that following Maharaj's instructions, she'd spent her time in spiritual practice in places of pilgrimage such as Benares, Vrindavan, and Haridwar. She was now living in Calcutta near Kalighat with a few disciples. Her appearance showed definite spiritual attainment. About 3 years later, the same girl disciple who had accompanied the nun came to see me. When I asked about her teacher, I was told she had passed away 2 years previously. During her last days, she was ill. One morning, she asked for an almanac to find the nearest auspicious day, and on that day, she asked her disciples to devote their time to prayer and meditation. She herself repeated the names of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and Maharaj. And while doing so, in full consciousness, she left the body. Now, you might say, that wasn't a lay disciple. That was a nun. Well, that's true. But all monastics start off as lay people. That's how it developed. She came as a young widow to Maharaj, and that's how it developed. Now, the next reminiscence is by Boshi Sen. Boshi was closely associated with the Ramakrishna order, but he was not a disciple per se of Swami Brahmananda, but very closely associated with him. This reminiscence was written in 1960. He starts, "More than 50 years ago, I saw Maharaj at the Howrah railway station in Calcutta for the first time. We students insisted on releasing the horses from his carriage, and we ourselves pulled it through the streets to its destination. I can still feel his blessing, his hand on my head as I took the dust of his feet." The next time I saw Maharaj was in 1910. He'd come to visit my guru, Swami Sadananda, at the house in Bospar Lane that was rented by Sister Nivedita so that three of us, my brother and I, and Vibhuti Ghosh, could nurse him in what turned out to be his last illness. So Swami Sadananda was Swami Vivekananda's first monastic disciple, and so Boshi received initiation from him. And Maharaj came to see Sadananda, who was ill. In conversation, Swami Brahmananda said, "I bought some land for the monastery in Bhubaneswar." When Swami Sadananda, with folded hands, replied, "Maharaj, I want to be the gatekeeper of that monastery." Maharaj said gently, "My child, first get well." Those 5 little words were so filled with sweetness, tenderness, and love that we almost melted when we heard them. After Swami Sadananda gave up his body in 1911, I saw Maharaj often, particularly when he was living in Calcutta. He used to stay not far from me. Nevertheless, I was working in the laboratory of Dr. Jagdish Chandra Bose, the world-renowned scientist, and was not always free to go to him whenever I liked. And for this reason, Maharaj gave me the nickname Season Flower. He was great at nicknames. So Boshi Sen was also a great scientist. He was an agricultural scientist and very prominent in what became the Green Revolution in India. Any little service, how insignificant, done with real devotion, never escaped Swami Brahmananda's recognition. Once I was asked to prepare a chillum of tobacco for him. 3 different attendants in turn came to hustle me, but I refused to take the chillum to Swami until I was satisfied that it was just right. When Maharaj drew his first puff, he gave me an affectionate smack on the back. "One more chillum like this, and I'll give you final monastic vows." Of course, this is a householder. One day he asked me, "Can you shave me?" "If you help me, Maharaj, I can." And I answered, kind of stimulus response. And then it flashed through my mind how I would feel if by accident I ever cut him. And so it became my privilege to shave him on my way to the Bosch Institute. Usually on cloudy days, he didn't want to be shaved. And one morning, as it was drizzling, I went straight to work, quite certain that Maharaj would not require my services. When I saw him that night, however, he was rubbing his chin and uttering an exclamation that sounded like, "Oof." I learned my lesson. It was not for me to take any decision upon myself concerning Maharaj. One of the little girls at Balaram's house asked Swami Shankarananda, "Where does Maharaj's barber get such good clothes?" "Why, he gets such good clothes because he is Big Maharaj's barber." And so I got another nickname, Big Maharaj's barber. You see, it was fun on a lot of levels to be around Maharaj. Another privilege that I had was to massage Swami Brahmananda. He liked vigorous massage, and of those who were too gentle, he would say, "They massage me as if they were stroking their pet cat." And when I was massaging his hand, he had a way of pressing my thumb down under his, a sort of mock trial of strength. One day it suddenly dawned on me what a fool I was to try to pull my hand away when Maharaj was holding it. This is something that people remarked on at all phases of his life. He didn't exercise, as far as I knew, as a mature person, but he had great strength. I instantly ceased to try to pull my thumb away, and he gave me a wonderful smile of understanding immediately. After that, he always continued to give that particular pressure whenever I rubbed his palm, playful but always teaching. One day as I was massaging him, he was talking about sadhana, saying, "Do you think that there is any fixed catalog price of so much austerity, so much japam, so much charity, etc., to realize God? No, none can force realization out of him." This remark suited me to a T, for I was not practicing any sustained spiritual discipline at the time. And then he went on, "But," I thought, why this inconvenient but? "But," he said, "if you don't keep up a regular spiritual struggle, you won't be able to hold that realization if it does come." In April of 1922, the terrible news came that Maharaj had cholera. I hurried to Balaram's house to find out if it was true. I just peeped into his room, and though his back was turned, he immediately asked, "Who is it?" I asked whether I could fan him. "Yes, do." With his permission, I was allowed to join the group who nursed him. 2 days before he gave up his body, he was in a wonderful ecstatic mood, showering unending blessings on all in the room. For the first time, we heard from his own lips who and what he was. Ramakrishna said that he was Sri Krishna's eternal companion, a cowherd boy of Vrindavan, playmate of Sri Krishna. The blessedness we all felt at that time has not diminished in intensity through all these years. He filled each of us to the utmost limit of our capacity. An hour before he left his body, he quit speaking and seemed to have withdrawn to some distant realm beyond the reach of any of us. I was very gently stroking his palm and wondering if he still remembered that old playful pressure of his thumb. That instant, I felt it. Light, but unmistakable. Maharaj's last bequest. Wow. To have that kind of sympathy, such that even he's on his way out of the body, he's leaving his body, he still has that recognition of this person next to him and what he needed. It's quite remarkable, almost unbelievable. So the next reminiscence is from Swami Brahmananda, who was I don't know whether he was actually a disciple of Maharaj's, but he was certainly trained by Swami Brahmananda as a young monk and was close to him. Maharaj used to call many devotees by various nicknames. One old man was called Abdul, a Muslim name, though the gentleman was an out-and-out Hindu. He was called Abdul only because he had a long white beard. Another gentleman with a big mustache was called Kaiser because it looked like the mustache of Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany. He referred to another, a pot-bellied short man, as Lat Pat Jawan, which means wrestler, though the man knew nothing of wrestling. The last man, the last man, was much favored by Maharaj. By profession, he was a tailor and had little academic education. But because of his simplicity, Maharaj loved him. So he didn't look at people's estimation by the general public. He had a different way of looking at people. Were they simple? Did they love God? And it didn't matter to him what their station in life was. Because of his simplicity, Maharaj loved him. And when he came to the mat, Maharaj would often have fun. Once Maharaj asked him to imitate a drum with his mouth, that kind of thing, I think. Latpat at once obliged, and his antics soon had Maharaj and all of us laughing. Another time, Maharaj told Latpat to roll on the lawn in front of the monastery until he reached the Ganga. Without a moment's hesitation, he began rolling towards the Ganges. Maharaj had to stop him, lest he fall off the embankment into the water. Latpat, however, was quite unperturbed. We all enjoyed the fun, but in ignorance of the spirit that prompted this man. One day one of us asked him, Latpat, you must come here to receive benefit from Maharaj's spiritual presence and advice. Why do you simply act like a buffoon and make yourself a buffoon before him and us in that way? The man was almost in tears. Brothers, you know I'm an uneducated man. I can't follow your learned conversation. Yet Maharaj loves me. I can give nothing to Maharaj, but I feel myself blessed if Maharaj receives a little pleasure from my childish behavior. And this is from Swami Seshananda. Swami Seshananda was Holy Mother's disciple, received brahmacharya vows from Swami Brahmananda. And he was Swami Saradananda's personal attendant and private secretary during the last days of his life. Swami Brahmananda, says Swami Seshananda, had the simplicity of a child and the wisdom of a knower of Brahman. One day he put on the mask of a tiger to frighten the grandchildren of Balaram Bose. After the first cry of fear, one of the children said, "Oh, it's Maharaj. You can't frighten us." Maharaj then removed the mask and took all the children on his lap. He gave them some candies, which he had asked me to bring for this purpose. And then Swami Seshananda gives an editorial comment. It seems that when we can recognize the reality behind the veil of Maya, the terror of the world disappears. It looks like a tiger, but Maharaj is hiding behind. The next moment, Swami Brahmananda was so absorbed in contemplation that I couldn't ask him a question for which I had come. He was so grave, so withdrawn, I did not dare to speak. I sat in silence for a while, prostrated mentally, and left. See, this is it. He's playing in this world. He's playing in this kind of joyful way that's always informed by his connection with the divine ground. So it's uplifting. So it's one of those situations where people loved him, but they didn't understand. So the last reminiscence is by an actress named Tara Sundari. During the first quarter of the 20th century, she was one of the finest actresses of the Bengali stage. And in those days, she was kind of an outcast in terms of society. Even though society praised her and came and looked at her dramas, she was the child of a courtesan. She never knew her father. And she was outside the pale of society. Ever since I was a little girl, I worked on the stage with Girish Chandra Ghosh and heard from him about Sri Ramakrishna. There was a photograph of Ramakrishna in every theater with which Girish Ghosh was connected. And the actors and actresses would bow down, make pranams to the master's photograph before appearing on stage. My first visit to Bellarmine took place in 1916. I was then depressed and restless. Life seemed unbearable. I was seeking out places of pilgrimage. In this unhappy state of mind, I finally went to Bellarmine. Binodini, the finest actress of Bengal at the time, was with me. When I was 7 years old, she introduced me to the theater. And again, it was she who introduced me to the monastery. It was past noon when we arrived. Maharaj had finished his lunch and was about to go to his room to rest. At that moment, we arrived and bowed down before him. Maharaj said, "Hello, Binod. Hello, Tara. So, you're here, but you're too late. We already finished lunch. You should have told us you were coming. We could have fed you." We could see how worried he was. He immediately ordered fruit prasad, and arrangements were made to fry luchis so that we could have something to eat. We went to the shrine. We had our prasad, and afterwards were shown around the mat by a Swami. Swami Brahmananda did not have his afternoon rest that day. We were brought up to revere holy men, but along with respect and faith, I felt much fear. I was a fallen woman, and so when I touched the holy feet of Maharaj, I did it with great hesitancy, afraid to offend him. But his sweet words, his solicitude, his love dispelled my fear. Maharaj asked me, "Why don't you come here often?" I said I was afraid to come to the monastery. With great earnestness, "Fear? You're coming to Sri Ramakrishna. What fear can there be? All of us are his children. Don't be afraid. Whenever you wish, come here, my daughter. The Lord doesn't care about externals. He sees our inmost hearts." I could not hold back my tears. My lifelong sorrow melted as the tears fell from my eyes, and I realized, here is my refuge. Here is someone to whom I am not an outcast. This happened much, much later, but again, it was Tarasundari who it shows the progression of her relationship with Swami Brahmananda. And again, it's narrated by Swami Vijayananda. Few people notice how much damage there is in our prejudice, in our preformed ideas, in limited moral concepts, and above all in that vanity which closes to us all doors of superior or direct knowledge. I had these defects. Now I will tell you how, by the grace of Swami Brahmananda, one of these defects was uprooted. One afternoon, in front of a tree where the Temple of Holy Mother now stands at Bellarmine, I saw the best theater actress in Calcutta. I very much appreciated, this was Tara, I very much appreciated her extraordinary artistic ability Any character she represented was so perfect that the public would always applaud. Seeing her at Bellarmont, I was a little surprised, because I had some preconceived ideas. I thought people who worked in the theater were immoral. And even having applauded her many times and having felt deep emotions through her acting, the moralist in me did not allow me to greet her personally, as I would greet anyone else. But the divine grace was working. The artist greeted me and asked, "May I see Maharaj?" I immediately forgot the artist and saw in her a woman of bad ways, even though she was dressed normally. Covering up my feelings, I said, "Maharaj will not be able to receive you now, since at this time he takes a rest." And I began to move on. But she, with a sweetness that only great souls possess, asked me again, "Couldn't you please see if Maharaj has already come out, and ask him if I can go and see him?" Unwillingly, I went. When I arrived at the veranda in front of his room, I saw Maharaj standing, as if waiting for somebody. He asked me, "What is it, my son?" I told him that the actress wanted to see him. Maharaj said, "Go, run, bring her." I went down the stairs thinking, how strange that Maharaj is so eager to meet this woman. But I bit my tongue and accompanied her to Maharaj, who was standing waiting for her. The actress made pranams. Maharaj said, "Come, mother, come, sit down." He told me, "Prepare some good tea and toast immediately. Bring some fruit and sweets that have been offered in the shrine." With even greater surprise, I went to do it. When I came back carrying the tray, I saw something that is imprinted on my mind forever. The actress had her head on the Swami's feet, bathing them in her tears. He was standing in his majestic way, and she was saying, "Father, you know everything. Nothing is secret to you. Tell me, is there any hope of salvation for me? You have just now called me Father, so from today, live in this world as my daughter, the daughter of Swami Brahmananda. And now get up, my daughter. You must be hungry. Take something and drink this tea. It must be well prepared." The actress dried Maharaj's blessed feet with her long hair. Looking at me with a smile, she took the tray from my hands. Shaking with a feeling I could not express and with tears of happiness, I went down the stairs. Later, after the passing of Swami Brahmananda, on the day that his temple at Bellarmont was inaugurated, I saw Mrs. Tara, the great actress, completely transformed. She came to me. "Little brother," she said, "today we have to see our Father in our hearts. Isn't it so?" Controlling my tears, I could only say yes. Through the grace of Swami Brahmananda, I know that any bad action only covers the eternally pure Atman. They can never affect the Atman. And one look only, one compassionate sentence, can completely clean the heart of those who sincerely and totally surrender themselves to God. I'll close with a prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.